Welcome to the Maybe Baby Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Mariah Montgomery. Here we'll discuss all things infertility like heartbreak, joy, growth, loss, and the wild, crazy journey that it is. Let's bring awareness, education, and understanding to the table. You aren't alone. Together, we've got this. Auschel, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too.
So I would love to hear about your story and how you found yourself in the infertility community.
Wow. So years ago, I feel like my husband and I, we'd been married for a couple years and just decided, start trying. And it was funny because I have I love to plan things. It calms my brain for sure. And so I was like backtracking. Okay, we're going to graduate college in May. So if a baby were to come in June, then we would have all summer and then you could go get your master's. And then we would have all summer to be together and adjust to our new life. And okay, so we need to start trying this month to get pregnant and have the baby this month. I mean, I had the whole thing mapped out. So months went by and then years. And I think at about, even just at that year mark, I deep down knew something was wrong. Mm-hmm. I come from a family that all super fertile. In fact, most of us are called accidents. And so I just didn't think that would be an issue. And so at 11 months, I was getting nervous. So I went into the doctor and she's like, all right, well, let's start, looking to see if we can solve anything. And nothing came back. There were no answers. And
so frustrating.
Right. And some of the tests that we started were surprisingly invasive. I didn't see it happening. I didn't see it coming. I mean, we did oh my gosh.
HSG.
I was going to say.
Worst.
Right? And I didn't see that coming. And I turned white and I almost passed out. And I remember the doctor looking at my husband going, is she always this color? My husband's like, no, sure not. And so that was my introductory test to this whole thing. And as you know, it just gets worse and worse and worse after that. That was the soft introduction. So then we just started doing all of the tests and the inseminations and still no diagnosis, still considered unexplained. Nobody knew why. Oh, yeah. So I was still considered unexplained. And I had, I think it was 7 or 9 inseminations. We did Clomid.
My gosh.
Well, and that was the thing, hindsight, people give me that look now.
I'm sorry.
No,
just gave it to you so hard.
But I didn't have a community. I had the online world where you just kind of eavesdropped, right? But there was no one that really said 9 or 7, or why didn't you start asking different questions at number 3?
You don't know, right? You don't know.
You don't know. So you just do what you're told. And so again, hindsight, always wonderful. Mm-hmm. And so then at that point, we went in and they said IVF is probably the best shot. And I had heard about the injection cycle. And so I thought I had one more step because IVF to me just sounded like we were getting close to the end of all of our options, especially unexplained.
Yeah.
So our first round of IVF, all the meds and the injections and stuff, when we went in for the blood draws as we got closer, I didn't have any eggs. So all of the meds that we had done, it was bittersweet to have a diagnosis. Low egg reserve. That's what it was. Great. But I was only 23, almost 24. And so that didn't make sense to me either. What? Why? How? Low eggs. I'm not 40. I'm not.
Right.
And so it was a gut punch, but also kind of, like I said, bittersweet. Mm-hmm. So we ended up doing an injectable cycle that way, just didn't retrieve any eggs to see what, kind of salvage all of the money you've already paid.
Yeah.
And all of the meds, right? And so then we did it again. And that one ended up in, I like to say it was a miscarriage. I got an early positive test at home, which they tell you never to do.
Yeah.
And then the first blood draw was maybe. And then the second blood draw, the numbers didn't double. Mm-hmm. But in my brain, if I had a miscarriage, then maybe that means I was progressing. So you can call that whatever you want. And then our third IVF, we got 2 eggs retrieved and fertilized is all. And one egg was of decent quality. And then the other egg, they just wasn't a great quality, but they asked if we wanted to do a compassionate transfer, I think is what they call it now.
Mm-hmm.
So they put both eggs in, and the compassionate egg, for lack of a better term, I miscarried that one.
Oh.
So it did actually implant, they both implanted, but the compassionate transfer miscarried. And so I was on bed rest for a while to see if it was going to flush the other egg out too. So I was on bed rest before I even really could get excited about the positive possibility.
Yeah.
Because I was potentially miscarrying again. But the bed rest worked or something worked and my one egg made it. And my one egg is now 14 years old and in 8th grade. And he is just an absolute joy. And so that's awesome. I kind of want a shirt that says like my one egg
Oh my gosh.
is 14, right? Because there's so much lack of hope and there's so many things that are going to get you down and so many things that suck. And so I feel like that's like just one egg.
Mhm.
Literally, I had one egg. I had a nurse, bless her heart, as my grandmother would say. She literally put her hand on my shoulder while I'm in the stirrups. And she's like, honey, I've never seen this work before.
That's not the time to say that.
Right?
Ooh.
Yeah. A little bedside manner, but it was funny. Not at the time. Funny was not a word I'd choose. 14 years ago, we're going to say funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it did work. And when it did work, I kind of wanted to find her and tell her that.
Yeah. Like, look at this.
It does work. One egg.
Yeah.
So then after our son was born in September, just kind of like we were so blessed with one. For 3 years, we didn't think we were going to get any.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, okay, I love my sibling with everything in me, like just one sibling. So we went back to the doctor and the doctor was like, you have a low egg reserve. We don't have any knowledge as to like how quickly your eggs deplete or, like month after month, here's how it's going to go. And so he said, if you want to do this, we've got to do it now.
Oh my goodness.
Like there's no waiting. And then in the same breath, bless his heart, right? He's like, you were on more meds than anybody in the clinic to get any eggs out of you.
You were on a super high dose protocol then.
Yeah. And again, hindsight, right? I just did whatever they told me.
Yeah.
At the time with my son, I didn't realize I was on a high dose protocol. I just did, you do whatever you're told.
Yeah.
You're desperate.
Yeah.
You're the doctor, you're the genius. Just tell me what I got to do. And so that was interesting because I had never been told I was on such a high dose. And so he said, you were on the highest dose in the clinic. And if it hadn't worked already, I would have turned you away today. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do this. So we started the IVF protocol again. And then that time I got 3 eggs in that cycle. That
3
first
is good though.
For
Right?
me, 3.
Yeah.
I made it with 1.
Yeah.
3 is lovely.
Right?
So all 3 actually ended up being good quality. And we put 2 back in and both took. And so at that point, our twins were born and I had 3 kids under 2. I don't remember that first year.
I believe that.
Thank goodness iPhones had started being a thing because, man, if I hadn't recorded as much as I did, I couldn't have told you much. That's for sure. But, I think so many people who have been successful with their infertility journey can relate. Like, there was no complaints. Like, are you kidding me? I have 3 kids under 2. My heart is full. And for so many years, my hands were empty. Like, I have no complaints whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Even if maybe I, was overwhelmed and crying in the corner, no complaints because it took us so long to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, they're super close in age. So my twins are now 12 and my son will be 14 in just a couple weeks actually. So it was a blessing for sure. But also what I didn't see is how the trauma lives on. Mm-hmm. In all of the things, like It's been over a decade and I am still like super duper helicopter parent. Would I have been one without infertility? Maybe. I think the word is catastrophizing.
I love it.
Everything, right? Like my twins were like, Mom, can I walk to ice cream after school with friends? And I'm like, take the back roads.
Yeah.
Don't walk on a busy street. I'm sure that's better. I'm not sure why. There's maybe no valid thought there, but don't walk on it. Just some of those really stupid things that have just, I think, changed the type of parent I've become because those 3 years just were triggering and traumatizing. You have no control.
Yeah.
And like I said at the beginning, like I had my planner out. I was like, due date's going to be this day.
Yes.
First birthday is going to be this day. Seasons are going to look like this.
Yep.
Nope,
Oh my gosh. I understand. That was me and my husband too. I'd be like, okay, if we get pregnant this month, then we can plan. I'm a wedding photographer. And I was like, then we can have this many weddings this month and we could do this and we could take this amount of time off. And I was like, I was ready, you know? And then infertility comes in and it's like, just kidding. You're not going to do any of that.
No.
All those plans that you had, it's not for you.
Well, and I didn't think like how learning to pivot, not my strong suit.
Yeah, I feel
Still
that.
not.
Yeah.
But when you don't have a choice and that control is taken from you, woo, that is an interesting ride.
Yeah. And it's hard. Oh my gosh, it's really hard. Like I am I'm a planner. I like things to be my way. I'm very controlling. So
100% the same way.
yeah. You can't, my husband's off camera and he's like over there nodding right now.
It's like 110%.
Yeah. And then again, infertility comes along and it's like, okay, yeah, that control, you don't have any of that anymore. Like it's gone. And I do feel like there are some things that you can have control over. Like you control like, you know, the help that you're going to get and the support you're going to get and like what you're going to eat and what you're going to do. And, you know, like if you're going to go to acupuncture or not. And if you're going to go do like, you know, XYZ, whatever it is. But overall, like you don't have control on what your family's going to look like. You really don't. And that's really hard, especially because I feel like growing up, we have this ideal of, you know, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to have like 3 kids and I'm going to be done by the time I'm like 35. And then it just doesn't, it doesn't go that way.
No. And the adjustment, you know, again, hindsight, right? There's so many blessings in that, in learning to pivot. But in the moment, you're like, I will kill you. Right? This is awful. This is the worst thing ever.
I know.
And you just want to curl up in a ball and cry because just that loss of what you think you knew, what you wanted to know, and how you envisioned your life being. And I think especially being from our area too, like family is like live or die. How many kids do you want? And if it's, less than 5, you're kind of a wimp, right? In this area, for sure. I don't even bat an eye when someone says they have less than 5 kids. I'm like, okay, if you have 6, maybe my eyebrows will raise a little bit, right? Like, all I want is 1. Why do you have 6? Like, I'm just saying, like, the math here is unfair.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I feel like our area also is very much like not if you're going to have kids, but like when you're going to have children.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard too with people that I've talked to. And, you know, this whole podcast process, like there's so much pressure to have those children. And when you can't, you know, deliver up on that, it can be devastating.
Well, and the questions I didn't think of beforehand. Oh, you've been married for a while. When are you going to have kids? Right? That was such a natural question.
Oh no, I used to ask that all the time. And now I feel really bad that I have. Right? I don't ask it anymore, but
I have a friend who we have been friends for 11 years. She does not have children. I think she has endometriosis.
Oh, that's hard.
But I have learned if she didn't offer it, I'm not going to ask. Like, she knows my story because I'm open about it. She knows where I work. Now, I mean, it hasn't been the full 11 years, but like there was so many windows and opportunities for her to tell me her story. If she hasn't, am I curious why she doesn't have kids? Sure, but only as a friend.
Yeah.
But the things that people say have just been so eye-opening after infertility.
Mm-hmm.
And I have tried so hard to not.
I feel that so hard.
But you catch yourself even now.
Uh-huh.
Do you? Like, never mind. Don't answer that. Don't.
Yep.
Forget
Like,
it.
I didn't say it. It's fine.
Yeah. Don't feel any obligation. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. You have that really awesome perspective after you go through something difficult like infertility, like what you should and probably shouldn't say.
Yeah. The things that like really just cut you to the core that maybe you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And then you hear it come out of your mouth and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know. Before infertility, when somebody was struggling, I would have no problem saying something like, it's all going to work out. It's going to be okay. Like, there's a plan for you or whatever, like whatever you believe in, God, universe, source, higher power, whatever. Like, it's just, you're going to be taken care of. It's fine. And now after having that said to my husband and I so many times, like, just have faith. It's going to be okay. I do not feel like I can say that to anybody, no matter what trial they're going through. I remember so clearly, and I like get triggered even thinking about it now, just how uncomfy it was to hear that and how hard it was to hear those things. And I'm like, I can't, like, I have to like change how I say things to people now. Right. Just like, it doesn't even matter what the trial is or what they're going through. Like, it changes you so much going through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of our therapists at UIRC has told me that infertility was equal to cancer treatments. And I seriously kind of stopped for a minute and just like let that soak in. And I did not disbelieve that.
Yeah.
After all of that. And again, like the triggering traumas a decade later that's still there. It's like, okay. Because even for me, like cancer treatments are like the most heartbreaking whatever.
Yes.
And yet to go, we are all kind of on that same-ish level of that.
Yeah.
It's like maybe I should have given myself a little bit of grace for what I was going through when I was, for sure. I remember it's just I was sharing my story maybe just 2 years ago with some friends at my kids' school, and I had really truly believed it that like when my son, before I had our son, like, everything is about a cycle or a test or a level or cervical mucus or how much you may or may not have had in caffeine that day. And then when our son was born and we went in for our second IVF, it was amazing how I didn't have time to think about all of those things. And my heart was so full just being successful once. There was an element of not necessarily relaxed, but just kind of taken down a notch. And let's be honest, we're all so elevated that a notch is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I was sharing my story and I was like, with the twins, when I was on the bed rest right before, or like the princess days after transfer, I didn't have that same level of like rigidness that I had with my son. And out came, I think it was because I just relaxed. And seriously, like as soon as it came out, there was a little bit of vomit. I'm like, you don't ever repeat that to anyone. Don't ever say that to anyone. Don't ever say the word to anyone. Just, don't talk to people.
Right.
Like I just, even saying it out loud was like, okay.
Yeah.
Because that is like the one thing that I would get the most. It's just relax.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking, I will kill you.
And or like go on a vacation.
Go on a vacation. You'll have a vacation, baby.
I know.
Like that sounds great for you.
I know, right?
I'm so happy that you could get knocked up on accident.
That's so nice.
That's so great for you.
Yeah.
How must it be to not know what an internal wand looks like?
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy for you right now.
I know.
That you were not subjected to that every 48 hours. Like,
oh my gosh.
How great for you.
I know. I feel like dark humor is part of the little tool belt that you gain after going through infertility treatments. And I don't think it matters, like, even if it's just like an IUI or like Clomid or Letrozole or whatever. I think you kind of get that dark humor because I feel like we need the humor to be able to
survive,
get through it.
Yes.
Yeah. Because if we didn't have it, and if we couldn't laugh about, those dates with Wanda or whatever. Like,
oh my gosh, that I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Can we put that somewhere?
Yes.
I will find a place for that sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And it really is because like it's every 48 hours.
Yeah.
You're like, well, here I go again.
I know. Getting probed.
Right.
It's awful.
And then when it just comes second nature, that's when you know you've hit a problem.
I know.
Like when it no longer affects you or just like, oh, here I am again.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys.
Brought my snacks. Brought my snacks for the waiting room and a good book.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. It's a weird, wild ride.
And it's all about survival.
Mm-hmm. All of it.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find yourself in with UIRC? How did that all happen?
Super coincidentally, so I was at my daughter's tennis practice and I was sitting next to a friend who was on the PTA with me at school and she was on her laptop ordering Lucky Socks. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so she turns to me and she tells me about Lucky Socks at UIRC.
Oh, I love that.
And then she like goes in to tell me like how hard infertility is and how you just don't understand how hard it is and how being in the stirrups and how rough that is for people. And inside I'm just dying. And she just goes on about the Lucky Socks and what they do and how they offer them for people and how traumatic infertility is. And so then I kind of like start poking around a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, what does UIRC do? What other things? And by the hour and a half, by the end of the tennis lesson, I'm like, I need to work with you. And she laughed, and coincidentally, within like 6 months, there was a job opening. So
that's perfect.
It was just the funniest. I wasn't looking for a job. We had just come out of COVID. Like it was insanely coincidental, but also humorous to have someone tell you how hard infertility is.
Yeah.
Because we don't have flags. We don't have signs, right? We all carry our trauma differently.
Yeah.
And she didn't know. And so we just kind of joked and bonded over that. And so that's how I got started. I got started last summer. And my first throw you into the deep end was conference. And because of COVID, it was their first like real in-person conference.
Yeah.
So I was just like super starry-eyed going, wow, had I had this. Like you're telling me that I can go into a room, into a conference with doctors giving lectures and breakout sessions on any topic that might affect me.
Yeah.
And therapists. Like what? And so we pulled off our first one and then I got to be honest, I was absolutely exhausted. And by the end, like I didn't see it coming, right? Calling all of these doctors. And what was really funny is one of the doctors on the panel was my doctor that had given me my twins. And
can I ask who it was?
It was Dr. Johnstone.
I loved Dr. Johnstone.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh my gosh. We were going with her before we won half off at conference last year.
Yes.
And then switched to Reproductive Care Center.
Okay.
So, but
right?
I love her. I'm so happy you went with her.
And it was so funny to like call her as like not a patient, but I was definitely not an equal, right? And so I'm just like, Dr. Johnstone, would you mind coming and speaking? And so now, and she's like, call me Erica. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You've earned your doctor's title.
You can be the doctor of all things. So now we're gearing up for the second conference. And okay, let me back it up a little bit. At the end of the conference, right before we had given away all of the raffles, I seriously looked at my boss and I'm like, this is a disaster and we're never doing this again. Like, this is exhausting. Like, I am overwhelmed.
Oh.
And then the raffle happened and I watched you win.
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
And I started bawling. Hopefully you didn't notice. So I started bawling and then my boss started bawling and we walked out there. We walked like cleaning up and we looked at each other same time next year. And she's like, absolutely.
Oh.
So it was one of those like, it is a battle. But I think that's what makes it great is we really try to hit all of the boxes. You know, this year, We've got a breakout specifically on endo.
Which is so awesome.
Right?
I think that is, I feel like we all know about it, but to actually sit and hear somebody lecture about it or talk about it, I think this is huge. We need more awareness about it.
Well, and then being able to be like 20 feet away, or man, get up and go talk to him, like, and ask your personal question to a doctor that day is priceless. So then after that, I've tried to schedule it. So if you have endo, then we have a pelvic floor specialist.
I love that too.
So that you can just like find your personal journey while you're at the conference. We have an acupuncturist.
I love that too.
We have a nutritionist. And I have to be honest, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to use her. Like, she is adorable and wonderful to work with and just personable, and has this wealth of knowledge that, I mean, when she told me how much caffeine I should be drinking in my life, it was a little painful. And I'm definitely not hitting those numbers. So then we have that. And then we have therapists that can talk to you about your anger and your stress and your grief.
Yeah.
That, again, you need to own, and you need someone to tell you it's okay.
And validate it. Yeah.
You feel free to throw something. Murder is still illegal. But feel free to throw things.
But we can talk about it.
We can talk about it. We can for sure talk about it. And then we have a sex therapist. Let's be honest. Nobody's getting knocked up on a Tuesday.
Nope.
That's going to have some consequences.
Yep.
And so, and then Dr. Johnstone is coming back this year.
Oh, perfect.
And she's going to talk about what she did last year, which I kind of, again, thought was so valuable when one cycle fails. Sometimes you just have this screw this mentality.
Yes.
It was hard. It was exhausting. I am mentally drained. I'm not doing this again. But Dr. Johnstone and Monica Ashton are going to come and talk about why every cycle is different.
Yeah.
And why there's so much that goes into every cycle that you can't give up.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that gives you that grace of throw something against the wall, swear a little bit, don't give up.
Yeah.
And this is why.
Yeah.
This is the medical reason why don't give up. So this year we have, again, over $20,000 worth of raffle items.
That's awesome. Right? That's so awesome.
And again, like, I'm just, from you last year, like, I'm just so excited.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to see who gets it this year.
Right?
Because oh man, that was the biggest thing for our journey. I mean, conference was great. And even if we hadn't won, we would have loved our experience there. We had such a good time. We went with another couple and it was really awesome. But I mean, because you guys had conference and because you guys had those raffles, I mean, our family building dreams are so much more attainable now. Like, we were actually able to do IVF, and I'm so incredibly grateful for everything that you guys do, everything that you guys continue to do. Yeah.
Well, it definitely boosted the effort that goes into this, for sure, for that last little bit, giving people the comfort to know you're not alone. And then at the end, we sure hope to give you a lot of money on your way out the door.
I know, right? Yeah.
So the conference is going to be on September 23rd. Early bird tickets go out soon. But yeah, just come and if you're not infertile, you know someone who is. So come learn how you can support, or maybe like even like I said, like, I've found nutritionists and acupuncturists that I feel comfortable saying, go to this person. This person specializes in it.
Yeah.
So if you know someone that like wants to just get into that door, there's so many options and so much to learn on your journey, no matter where you are. So check our website out, and the whole schedule's posted. Who's going to talk when, see what's really going to like help your journey.
Yeah.
And then stick around for the $20,000.
Yeah.
Right.
And the lunch was pretty great last year too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Food is my love language. So
awesome. Well, I will put your website down in the show notes so people can find you. And then I will also put a link to the conference sign up down in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
So that'll make it nice and easy for people to find.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Auschel, thank you so much for being with me today. I love talking to you. I love your energy.
Thank you. It was so fun.
Yeah. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. We'll see you next week in next week's episode. Bye.